Japan. The land of the rising sun and incredible racism. When we think of Japan, most people think of anime, cool food, and samurai. But what if anime was live action? What if you could watch mech fights with real people? You may think I'm describing Pacific Rim, but no. I'm talking about Japan's pride and joy, Tokusatsu. So please, join me on this extensive journey into the wondrous world of Tokusatsu. Tokusatsu is defined as a Japanese term for TV and movies that make heavy use of practical and special effects. But before we get there, we must start in post-World War II Japan. Filmmaker Ishiro Honda was directing movies such as Ise Shima and later, The Blue Pearl. He would find critical success with The Blue Pearl, but this wasn't what put Mr. Honda on the map. In 1954, he would be immortalized in history. That year, the world would know the horror of Godzilla. As an allegory for the fears of Japanese citizens after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the atomic lizard would stomp his way through every facet of media known to man, and it would start two genres of TV and movies: kaiju and tokusatsu. The genres have been intertwined since their inception. Ishiro Honda can't take all the credit for the big atomic lizard we all know and love. We must credit the man who made Godzilla, not scripting and directing, but visually. That man was Eiji Tsuburaya. Mr. Tsuburaya took on the role of special effects director for the film, and created the Godzilla suit seen in the film. He had worked on several films in the past, such as The Silent Avenger, but this made him known. He helped pioneer the genre of special effects called suitmation, which would put an actor in a suit and have them stomp around as the character. He would leave the Godzilla franchise after the 1966 film, Ebirah, Horror of the Deep. He would go on to form his own production company, aptly named Tsuburaya Productions. This company would start with Mr. Tsuburaya's first kaiju-themed TV show, Ultra Q. This show aired in 1966 and ran for 28 episodes. This wouldn't be his magnum opus, however. That honor belongs to Ultraman. Airing from 1966 to 1967, Ultraman began one of the greatest media franchises in history. This led to a spin-off show later that year called Ultra 7, which ran from 1967 to 1968, which unfortunately would be Eiji Tsuburaya's last Ultraman series. He would pass away in 1970 of a heart attack, but Ultraman would persevere and has continued running today, with the most recent addition to the series being the upcoming Ultraman arc. Ultraman would start a huge phenomenon in Japan, which saw many tokusatsu shows pop up. One of the big ones at our next topic was Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider started in 1971 and would run up until 1973. The show centered around a masked, grasshopper-themed superhero who would fight other bug-themed villains. This would also start a huge media franchise with 34 shows in all so far, with the most recent show being Kamen Rider Gotchard. This show was produced by the Toei Corporation, and this wouldn't be their only tokusatsu series, though, as they would make another that a lot will recognize. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not Power Rangers. Well, it is, but it also isn't. This is Super Sentai. This is one of the biggest media franchises in not just Japan, but the world. You'll recognize Super Sentai as footage was ripped from the series Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger to make Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Super Sentai has spanned 48 series in all, starting in 1975. The series started with Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger, and the most recent addition being Bakuage Sentai Boom Boomger. Most of Power Rangers fight footage comes from Super Sentai, but there are several Sentai series that don't have a Power Rangers adaptation, one of those being my personal favorite, Uchu Sentai Kyuranger. Now, Super Sentai can be left alone because Power Rangers is getting a reboot. Now it's time for the bad. There's a lot of bad tokusatsu, and I mean a lot. Let me start with one you'll recognize, Power Rangers Megaforce. What the fuck was even going on in this show? Now that I go back and watch it, I can't even tell you the plot. As much as I want to, I just can't. It's really funny how goddamn much of these awful tokusatsu shows are American-made. Speaking of, there's a tokusatsu show called Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills. I really wish I was joking about that name. Believe me when I say this may be the worst fucking thing I've ever watched. It's actually dog shit. It's honestly sad that bad tokusatsu is usually American-made. Oh, I forgot! Spider-Man. Spider-Man. It may be the second most memorable tokusatsu show that could ever exist. Who hasn't seen Japanese Spider-Man's robot? Unlike a lot of people, I actually have watched Tokusatsu Spider-Man. It is the fever dream it looks like. It's fucking amazing. I love you, Leo Pardon. It's odd to think that two entire fucking genres of media were spawned from one film. One film created 70 years of material. But we have to know that this was destined to happen. With how much of a following Godzilla gained in such a short time, it was inevitable that Tokusatsu would have started. And now, because of Godzilla, we have Ultraman, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and so many others. It's incredible how much of Tokusatsu has kept itself in pop culture. Everyone knows the Power Rangers. If you ask someone under the age of 35 what Power Rangers is, they'll be able to sing you the first theme song. It's a phenomenon that I don't think should go away. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing. You don't have to, but it is greatly appreciated. Me and my friend Cameron, who some of you might know me from, are currently working on a podcast where we talk about shit like this on a semi-regular basis. So consider listening to that when we get it off the ground.